live in a living color from the Radio What Studios, and this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. I am booking up the weddings like crazy. That's fantastic. You know, weddings are my specialty. Corporate events are my specialty. Video dance parties are my specialty. Karaoke jams are my specialty. I just like to play music for the people. I like to entertain you. Let me be a part of your show. Yes, let me do it. All right. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Putin says Russia has registered world's first coronavirus vaccine. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Tuesday that Russia has developed the first approved vaccine against COVID-19, according to reports by local news agencies. Putin said his daughter was among the people who had been vaccinated with it. Quote, as far as I know, a vaccine against a new coronavirus infection has been registered this morning for the first time in the world, end quote, Putin said at a government meeting, according to a RIA Novosti report. Medical experts expressed concerns that the Kremlin aggressively and dangerously rushed the new vaccine approval process, putting global prestige over public health. The World Health Organization reported in July that there were 26 vaccine candidates undergoing clinical evaluation, including one in Russia being developed by the Gamaleya Scientific Research Institute of Epidemiology and Microbiology. This is according to CNBC. Number 2, Lebanon's cabinet resigns as protests continue. Lebanese Prime Minister Hassan Diab on Monday announced the resignation of his entire cabinet as protest over a deadly massive explosion raged for a third day in Beirut. Anti-government protesters hurled rocks outside parliament, and security forces responded with tear gas. Demonstrators blamed deeply entrenched corruption for the government's failure to do anything to prevent the disaster, even though officials were warned that more than 2,700 tons of highly explosive ammonium nitrate was being stored in a warehouse at Beirut's port. Quote, today we follow the will of the people in their demand to hold accountable those responsible for the disaster and their desire for real change, end quote, Diab said in a speech announcing the resignation. The detonation at the warehouse killed at least 163 people and injured more than 6,000 others. This is according to Reuters. Number 3, Trump whisked out of briefing after shots fired outside White House. President Trump was rushed out of his Monday evening press conference when shots were fired outside the White House. The Secret Service later said a shot was fired by a uniformed Secret Service officer at a suspect and that the White House was never in danger. It was not immediately clear whether the suspect, who was taken to a hospital, was armed or what threat he posed. Trump returned to the briefing room about 10 minutes after he was whisked into the Oval Office. He resumed his comments on the coronavirus crisis after briefly addressing what had happened outside. Trump was not immediately aware of the details of the incident. Quote, it seems to be very well under control, end quote, he said. This is according to NBC News. Number 4, Trump might block return of citizens suspected of COVID-19 infection. President Trump is considering temporary measures to block American citizens and permanent residents who could be infected with the coronavirus from returning to the United States, the New York Times reported Monday. Draft immigration regulations obtained by the Times would let border officials deny entry to citizens and legal residents if an official, quote, reasonably believes that the individual either may have been exposed to or is infected with the communicable disease, end quote. The drafts also say that any order blocking them from returning must, quote, include appropriate protections to ensure that no constitutional rights are infringed, end quote. President Trump has imposed sweeping bans on entry by foreigners from coronavirus hotspots to curb the spread of COVID-19, but U.S. citizens and permanent residents have been exempt. Federal agencies have been asked to provide feedback on the proposal by Tuesday. This is according to the New York Times and Reuters. Number 5, Biden reportedly poised to reveal running mate selection. Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, has finished interviewing his potential running mates, and his advisors are preparing for an announcement on his choice midweek. The New York Times reported Monday, citing people briefed on the process. Biden could reveal his vice presidential pick as soon as Tuesday. His team reportedly has prepared rollout plans for several of the leading finalists. The strongest contenders include Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat, California, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts, and Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Democrat, Michigan. Biden also has considered Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat, Illinois, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, Democrat, New Mexico, and Representatives Karen Bass, Democrat, California, and Val Demings, Democrat, Florida. A spokesman for Biden's campaign declined to comment to the Times. This is according to the New York Times. Number 6, Trump says he'll give convention speech from White House or Gettysburg. President Trump said Monday he has narrowed down his option for the site of his presidential nomination acceptance speech, which would normally be given at the site of the Republican convention, but is being relocated because of the coronavirus pandemic. 2 finalists are the White House and the Gettysburg battlefield, though both locations could cause legal issues as they are federal property and not meant to be used for political campaigning. Some Republicans were very wary of Trump's idea to use the White House, citing the Hatch Act, which limits political work while on the job in an official federal capacity. Trump, as president, is exempt from the law, but White House staffers who would theoretically work the event aren't. This is according to CNN and the Associated Press. Number 7, Chicago police arrest 100 after police shooting triggers night of looting. Chicago police arrested more than 100 people after crowds vented anger over a police shooting by smashing store windows, looting, and injuring 13 officers. Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown said Monday. And the violence erupted after officers responded to a call reporting a man with a gun. When they arrived, a suspect ran away and fired at officers as he fled. Quote, "This wasn't an organized protest. It was an incident of pure criminality," end quote, Brown said. Quote, "Criminals took to streets with confidence that there would be no consequences for their actions," end quote. The city raised bridges over the Chicago River to prevent people from going downtown. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said the violent outburst, quote, "had nothing to do with protected First Amendment expression. This is a straight-up felony criminal conduct," end quote. This is according to NBC News and the Chicago Tribune. Number 8, EPA expected to announce rollback on methane regulations. The Trump administration plans to lift Obama-era controls on methane, a greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming, the New York Times reported Monday. The Environmental Protection Agency is expected to issue a new rule by Friday that will no longer require oil and gas companies to install systems that can find and fix methane leaks from wells, pipelines, and storage facilities, the Times reported, citing a person familiar with the matter. The EPA says the change which has been in development for more than a year, will fix a crippling regulation that hurts the oil and gas industries. Methane makes up almost 10% of greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S., and during its first 20 years in the atmosphere, it has 80 times the heat trapping power of carbon dioxide, the most harmful greenhouse gas, according to the Times. This is according to the New York Times. Number 9, gas explosion near Baltimore kills one. A gas explosion blew out windows and blasted doors off their hinges in a two-story row homes in northwest Baltimore on Monday, killing one woman and injuring at least 6 other people. A city councilman reported seeing bricks embedded in the doors of a car parked across the street. Neighbors rushed to look for survivors. More than 200 emergency responders soon joined in the search and pulled at least one man and woman from the rubble about 2 hours later. Witnesses said they heard children calling for help after the explosion. People miles away said it felt like a bomb had gone off. Quote, "This is a horrendous situation," end quote, Baltimore Fire Chief Niles Ford said. This is according to the Baltimore Sun and CBS News Baltimore. Number 10, Seattle Police Chief announces retirement, budget slashed. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best announced her retirement Monday night after the city council voted to slash the $400 million police budget by nearly $4 million. The budget rebalancing came in response to the coronavirus economic crisis and calls by anti-racial injustice protesters to shift money from police to community programs. Seattle City Council President M. Lawrence Gonzalez noted that city 911 calls only involve criminal activity 56% of the time, so it makes sense to redirect resources to other services. Quote, "What we can do is allow our police to focus on what they're trained to do and fund service providers addressing more complex issues of housing, substance use disorder, youth violence prevention, affordable health care, and more," end quote, she said. This is according to CNN. That's 10 things you need to know today for Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening. I know the news is not all good. We got to find some good news. If you have some good news, drop me some comments. Let me know what your good news is. I may read them on a future episode of What Makes You Smarter. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Hey, if you're in the Conway, Arkansas area, Friday night, I'll be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas for the video dance party karaoke jam. Come on out and play. You've been working hard. Come out and play with us. You know we're taking precautions too. Bring a mask with you and use it when you're walking around. But while you're sitting down having your drinky drinks and having some good food, you can take the mask down so you can get to your eating hole, the mouth area. All right, party people, that's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.